Your right to say what you want is not as important as my right to feel safe. After all, hate speech is bad. Some have gone so far to say that hateful speech is an act of violence. And since violence is bad, it must be stopped. So why shouldn't the government intervene in order to stop hateful speech? But what would banning such speech even look like? Well, let's take a quick trip across the pond to see how they've done it in the United Kingdom. Now, I know some of you are thinking, Nick, we fought a war with the English, so we never had to be concerned with what they thought ever again. Sure, but just for fun, let's look at how a culture relatively similar to our own decided to regulate speech. Well, in their never-ending quest to enforce politeness and prove that they are far more refined than us American barbarians,
They're farmers with pitchforks.
the British Parliament passed the Public Order Act in 1986, which governs which speech can be punished by law. So how's it worked out? Well, apparently everyone's getting in on the game. In one instance, a jury returned a verdict of guilty against Harry Taylor, who placed anti-religious pamphlets in a church setting. In another instance, Harry Hammond, an evangelist, was arrested and charged for carrying a sign that declared homosexuality to be a sin. So regardless of where you stand on these issues, it would appear that now that the government can be used to punish speech, both sides are willing to be involved. Now, you might argue that the UK is very different from the United States. I mean, they don't even have a written constitution, much less a First Amendment. And you'd be correct. But a recent report by the Knight Foundation in the US on the question of the freedom of speech has shown that college students are becoming a lot more friendly to the idea of speech codes and banning of hate speech. They like free speech when it comes to burning the flag or protesting campus policy or rap albums that they like. But some of them then resort to pearl clutching and even violence when someone has something to say that they find offensive. And therein lies the problem. There is no doubt that speech can be inappropriate, rude, hateful, or wildly unpopular. But the real question is, who gets to decide that? Because if it's me, the Kardashians are finished. I mean, they're gone, banned for life. But if it's the Kardashians, well then I'm probably the one in trouble. Because the moment you let politicians decide who can say what, you run into a very real problem with the idea of trade-offs. Because the real question we have to ask ourselves is not what offends us, but rather, to what extremes are we willing to go to suppress it? Some of the same people that want greater restriction on speech they consider to be violent seem very comfortable with using actual violence to prevent or punish someone for saying something they disagree with. And if that is the path we're going to go down, we need to remember, the same government restrictions and violence that can be used against those with whom you disagree can be, and most likely will be, used against you when different people are in power and itching for revenge. So perhaps we call a truce on this one and agree that while controversial speech is likely to result in the occasional hurt feelings, the proper way to combat a bad idea is with a good one, not a government-issued muzzle. I'm Nick Freitas. Thank you for joining us on the Why Minutes, where every week we tackle a new issue, ask the why, in order to get to the bottom of the ideas, philosophies, and principles which shape our world. Please join us at thewhyminutes.com.